Somewhere in Germany, a man holding a shovel is standing over a grave that has received no visitor in 26 years. He is not grieving. He is not mourning. He is simply doing his job. By the end of this week, the headstone will be pulled out and removed. The ground will be leveled, smoothed over, and covered with fresh grass seed. And within a few months, another body will be lowered into that exact same hole in the earth. This is not a scene from a dark film. This is not unusual. This happens every single day. In most parts of the world, when a family stops paying for a burial plot, or when the family simply stops existing altogether, that plot eventually gets recycled and reused. Workers come in, remove what remains, and make space for the next person. In Britain, they have found an even more efficient method. The City of London Cemetery has been quietly stacking bodies on top of one another since 2007. They call this process lift and deepen. The crew digs the existing grave to a lower depth, shifts the original skeleton down to the bottom, and then places a brand new coffin directly on top. Two complete strangers sharing one single plot of earth. In many parts of the United States, nobody moves anything at all. The headstone simply stays exactly where it is, slowly wearing away while the entire world moves on and forgets whoever is buried beneath it. But here is the truth that nobody wants to say out loud. The legal ownership of the plot does not matter. The visiting stops within 3 generations no matter what. A grave that no one visits is already gone, whether or not anyone ever arrives with a shovel to make it officially disappear. Most people still carry this belief that a grave is permanent. They grew up with it. A stone. A name. A small patch of grass that belongs to a family for eternity. But the permanent grave as we understand it today was actually invented in 1831, when Mount Auburn Cemetery opened just outside of Boston, Massachusetts. It was the very first cemetery in America intentionally designed to look and feel like a park, with private family plots guaranteed never to be disturbed. It was marketed and sold to a growing middle class that wanted something more dignified than the overcrowded, chaotic urban churchyards of the generations before them. We absorb this idea so completely that when we walk through a cemetery today, we assume we are looking at the way humans have always handled their dead throughout all of history. We are not. We are looking at the result of a marketing campaign launched less than 200 years ago. And then the slow erasure begins. First, the visitors stop coming. Then the flowers stop arriving. The small decorations that families leave behind eventually disappear. Over years and decades, the carved lettering on the stone gradually thins and softens until it blurs beyond reading. The stone itself collects moss and lichen. It develops a lean. Sometimes it falls completely. The raised plot slowly flattens back into the surrounding grass until there is no visible difference between a grave and ordinary ground. After 100 years, the stone may still be standing, but the name carved into it has become nothing more than a faint, unreadable shape. After 300 years, the cemetery itself has likely been cleared, built over, or absorbed into something else entirely. The grave does not disappear in a single dramatic moment. It simply stops being a grave. Here is something to try right now. Attempt to name all 4 of your great-grandparents. Full first and last names. All 4 of them. Research shows that 96 out of every 100 people cannot do it. These people were alive less than 100 years ago. They held the babies who became your grandparents. Without them making specific choices on specific days, you would not be here. You would not exist. And you have completely forgotten them. 3 generations. That is the average lifespan of human memory. After roughly 70 to 90 years, almost every person who ever lived is completely forgotten. And the forgetting does not always wait politely for death to arrive first. In Japan, there is a specific word for a particular kind of disappearance. The word is kotakushi. It translates directly as lonely death. Every single year, more than 70,000 Japanese people die completely alone inside their homes. Around 4,000 of those bodies are not discovered until more than a month after the person has already died. Some are not found for over a year. The smell is typically what alerts the neighbors. There are now companies in Japan that specialize entirely in cleaning and clearing these apartments. It has become a growing industry. The disturbing part is this. The majority of kodakushi victims have living family members. Children still breathing. Cousins. Old friends. People who were fully capable of visiting and simply did not. The grave becomes unvisited long before the grave even exists. Even the most celebrated names in human history could not escape this. Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart died in Vienna in 1791 at the age of 35. He received a third-class funeral and was placed in an unmarked common grave at St. Mark's Cemetery. About 10 years later, when his widow attempted to locate the exact spot, no one could tell her where it was. The procedure for reusing plots had already been carried out. Mozart's physical remains have been lost for over 200 years. The monument that stands in Vienna today marking his memory is an educated guess. And Mozart is not even the most striking example of how quickly fame dissolves. In the mid-1920s, the single most famous movie star on the planet was a man named Rudolph Valentino. When he died in 1926 at just 31 years old, 100,000 people flooded the streets of New York City. There were riots. Women collapsed in the streets. It was mass public mourning on a scale that is difficult to imagine today. And today, most people reading this have never heard his name. 100 years from the peak of worldwide fame to a complete blank. We could not preserve Mozart's bones. We could not preserve Valentino's name. We will not preserve yours either. The neuroscientist David Eagleman has written that every person dies not once but 3 separate times. The first death is the moment your body stops functioning. The second death is when your body is placed into the ground or reduced to ash. The third death is the one that nobody discusses at dinner tables or at funerals. It is the moment, somewhere in the future, when another human being speaks your name out loud for the very last time. For the overwhelming majority of people who have ever lived, that third death arrives approximately 3 generations after the first. The same 3 generations that have already completely erased your great-grandparents. Your children will remember you in genuine detail. Your voice. The specific way you smelled. The way your hands looked when you aged. Your grandchildren will hold on to fragments. A particular story. A single photograph. The feeling of being in your house during the holidays. Your great-grandchildren will know your name on a family tree document, if that, and roughly what you did to earn money. Your great-great-grandchildren will have no idea you ever existed at all. Some people survive longer because they became famous, or kept a detailed diary, or happened to have a descendant deeply obsessed with family genealogy. But for the vast majority of human beings, 3 generations is the absolute ceiling. But notice what else disappears on that exact same timeline. Every person who ever judged you harshly. The employer who dismissed you. The relatives who quietly catalogued your failures at every family gathering. The old friends who grew cold and whispered things about you when you were not in the room. All of them erased on the identical schedule. The shame dies with them. Marcus Aurelius observed this nearly 2,000 years ago. The people you are currently working so hard to impress are themselves about to become dust. Anthropologists who study human social behavior note that your real meaningful audience, the people whose opinions actually shape your daily experience, numbers around 150. Everyone beyond that is essentially a stranger you have been performing for your entire life. And here is something even stranger. You have been forgetting yourself this entire time. The childhood friend you promised yourself you would never lose touch with, whose face you now struggle to bring into focus. The dream you carried through your 20s that you can barely reconstruct the feeling of. The things you cared about deeply exactly 10 years ago that now feel like they belong to a different person entirely. The forgetting is not patiently waiting for you to die. It has been actively happening throughout your entire life. You have been burying yourself in small pieces the whole time. Somewhere, there is a teacher who first taught you how to read words on a page. There is a person who handed you your very first paycheck. There is a neighbor who watched you grow from a child into an adult and thought about you for years afterward. You cannot bring their faces to mind. You are not simply being forgotten by the world. You are forgetting just as rapidly as the world is forgetting you. Your body goes first. Then the people who genuinely loved you begin losing the sharpness of their memory of you. Your name follows after that. And choosing cremation changes none of this. Ashes get scattered. Ashes get lost. Ashes get quietly discarded by families who do not know what else to do with them. A small handful of names do survive across millennia. Socrates. Buddha. Tutankhamun. Roughly 100 names out of 100 billion human lives that have been lived on this planet. For ordinary people, the mathematics are straightforward and unmerciful. You are not waiting to be forgotten. You are already forgotten by most of the living world. 8 billion people are alive on Earth right now. Not one of them knows your name. The billions who have not yet been born will not know it either. The grave simply completes and finalizes what indifference already set in motion long before you died. Some rare individuals have chosen a different path. Genghis Khan died in 1227 and gave specific orders that his burial place be concealed from the world. Historical accounts describe soldiers eliminating all witnesses, horses driven repeatedly over the ground to erase every trace, and a river redirected to flow directly over the site. 800 years later, after numerous organized expeditions and modern satellite imaging surveys of the terrain, no one has located his tomb. He is somewhere beneath a hillside in Mongolia. Most of us are forgotten entirely by accident and despite ourselves. He made a deliberate choice. You have already been gone for 13 billion years before the moment you were born. You simply did not exist. The universe continued operating without any difficulty whatsoever. Stars collapsed and exploded. Empires rose and fell. People fell in love, raised children, built cities, created art, and fought wars. Not a single one of them missed you. You had not happened yet. When you die, you will return precisely to that state. People tend to imagine death as a kind of consciousness trapped alone in permanent darkness. It is not that. It is exactly what existed before your birth. And that part was, by all evidence, completely fine. Something does survive, though. Not in the way we want it to. The specific way your grandfather pronounced one particular word, which your parent absorbed without noticing, which you absorbed from them, which your child will carry into conversations you will never be present for. The recipe that nobody in the family remembers deliberately learning. The kind and specific thing someone said to you during a genuinely terrible period of your life, which you quietly passed along to someone else 15 years later without connecting it back to where it came from. Nothing of you survives attached to your name. But versions of you survive continuously. And most of your actual life is the unremarkable parts. The forgettable Tuesdays. The hour you spent cooking dinner with music playing in the background. The walk you took one afternoon with no particular destination or reason. None of that will appear in any obituary. None of it is expected to. That is precisely where you actually lived your life. This is not a curse to escape. It is the design itself. Genuine permanence would be a form of punishment. Imagine being watched forever. Judged forever. Your single worst day preserved on a permanent record that anyone could access at any moment. The forgetting is exactly what allows each new generation to begin without the full weight of everything that came before. It is what allows your shame to have a finishing point. Mortality is not a punishment handed down to you. It is a form of mercy. This process is already running right now, on a precise and unfeeling schedule. People are being erased as you watch this video. Some of them died last week. Some died 80 years ago, and the schedule has simply now caught up to them. It is already happening to your great-grandparents. Your grandparents are somewhere in the middle of it. Your parents are further along the timeline than you want to think about. And then it is your turn. The only open question is the sequence and the specific shape of how it unfolds. Because eventually, there is no one left who ever knew you. And eventually after that, there is no one left at all who does not know you. Because the last person who remembered what it meant to not yet know your name will also be gone.